College football week 11 is in the books. I can't believe it. Season is almost over. Thanksgiving is in a couple of weeks. Clemson and South Carolina plays in less than 2 weeks now. And it just keeps getting crazier and crazier. I'm going to dive into that and more, some college football news. But first, welcome to Clemson Football Live. I'm Brian. This is the channel that's formerly not Bobby, but I just renamed the channel. So thank you so much for subscribing. Those of you who have, and those of you who haven't, it's free. Hope you will support the show. Also, there's a join button below this video if you want to support on a monthly basis. It's so flipping cheap. You won't even miss it. Even with inflation and gas prices and holidays, everything is so cheap. Trust me. So let's talk about this week's news. Of course, today is Sunday, November the 12th. Jimbo Fisher was fired earlier today. The whole $76 million payout they're going to have to give him for losing. And that's not on Jimbo. That's on Texas A&M. They were unwise enough to give him that option. And, well, what incentive do you have to actually coach? I don't know. So that news is out. Other news, Jim Harbaugh and the Big Ten, they're duking it out because of the whole sign stealing allegations. Oh, they have proof. Others say they don't. So he has been banned for the rest of the season. There's a hearing that's coming up. A lot of people are up in arms about the timing of the ban going on Friday. They had just flown to Penn State, and they were waiting to beat Penn State. Once again, Penn State proving like they always do. They're a good football team, but they're not a top 10 football team. I'm sorry, folks. I'm sorry. James Franklin can't beat a top 10 team. I've been telling people that for a very, very long time, but James Franklin, he's not a bad coach, but he's not a great coach. And hey, I'd take his job and take that money, but he just can't get over the hump when it comes to Penn State beating big teams. But that's some of the big news that's going on. Let's make it a little more local here. Our Clemson Tigers won their second game in a row. They beat Notre Dame. I was highly concerned that they would be hungover from the big win, the big emotional week of the Notre Dame week, that big win. And then having North Carolina coming up next week, I was really concerned about that because, quite honestly, that happens to a lot of teams, especially when a team is in the emotional state that Clemson has been in and really not performing to the standards that Clemson has for themselves. Forget the fans. But they went out yesterday, dominated Georgia Tech. Clemson was a 14-point favorite, won 42-21. Those last few touchdowns by Georgia Tech was a kind of, I won't say scrub time, but Clemson already put them away. They did give up those 2 touchdowns at the end, but Clemson played fantastic, had 4 interceptions in the game. Haynes King came into the Clemson-Georgia Tech game with 10 interceptions on the season. In my preview, I said, hey, there's a reason for that. You need to put a lot of pressure on him. Thank God Wes Goodwin did. He leaves Clemson with 14 interceptions on the year. Yes, he threw 4 interceptions, 1 pick six. And that was a great game by Clemson. We saw Maffa and Shipley get after it. I also saw one of the worst missed targeting call I've ever seen in my entire life. And this is at the height of officials stopping games. I'm going to go on a rant here. Officials stopping games just because they think there might have been a probability of one player's helmet just touching another player's helmet. Will Shipley was targeted. Plain and simple. It was not in a bunch of players to where no one could see what happened. That was the worst missed call I have seen almost ever. I won't say ever, but it's one of the worst ever. It's right up there with Chris Webber traveling in the national championship game against North Carolina. It's right up there. It's like, I think he double dribbled or something. It was terrible. Shipley was hot about it. I'd have been hot too. But Clemson wins the game and have North Carolina coming up next week. So let's talk about what happened yesterday. Let's go over some important scores, even some local scores for us. I'm here in the upstate of South Carolina, so I always like to talk about some of the South Carolina schools and how they're doing. Now, the game started on Tuesday night. It was a bunch of like MAC schools. I'm not going to put you through that. But let's get to Thursday night. Louisville played Virginia. Virginia played their heart out. Louisville won 31-24. 31-24. They are just churning along, man. That's what they're doing. And Louisville just keeps winning. That's all they do. They just keep winning. Brian Brom has got his team. They're 9-1. He has them in the top 10. They're ranked number 9 in the new AP poll. Louisville. The only teams ahead of Louisville right now is Alabama, Texas, Oregon, Washington, Florida State, Ohio State, Michigan, and Georgia. This is the new AP poll that came out just here in the past few hours. Not North Carolina, definitely not Clemson, not Miami, Louisville. Wow. Congratulations, Brian Brom. To me, he's the clear coach of the year in the ACC, and he should be considered for coach of the year in all of college football. What he's done there is just absolutely ridiculous. And it was a close game. They've had some close games. I'm not going to take that away from them. I mean, the truth is they've played some close games, and they need to be careful, because this is a way that you can lose some of your momentum. You can lose some respect. But Brian Brom, 9-1 in his first season. And just real quick, I'll tell you who they have coming up. You know, they've played 10 games. They're 9-1, as I said. They have Miami this week, 12 o'clock on ABC. So that's their last conference game of the year. And then they play against Kentucky right after Thanksgiving. So they still have 2 more games. They could go 11-1. I believe Miami's going to put up a fight with them. They're going to have to be careful there. Miami's not a bad football team. I think after that whole Georgia Tech debacle, that did something to those guys. They played Florida State very well yesterday. But that'll be a tough game. But anyway, Louisville doing their thing. I'll skip some less than desirable games to talk about on Friday. Let's get into Saturday. Now, everybody thought that Kentucky would play. I say everybody. It was sold to us that Kentucky would play Alabama quite well. Okay, they're going to play Alabama well. I think Alabama was only a 10-point favorite in this game. And what's so funny is Alabama beat them 49-21. Milroe had 234 yards passing, 3 touchdowns. And there was also something that was crazy about this game. He had some other crazy stat for this game. And I'm trying to find it right now because it just totally escaped me. I'm sorry, folks. I try to have my crap together. He has 6 touchdowns. He had 6 touchdowns, in the game. 6 touchdowns. Alabama may not be the dominant Alabama that we've known for the past, 12 years, something like that, longer than that. But there's a lot of you sitting out there, and by the way, I don't have comments on, so I can't see them, or else I won't get out a coherent word. I barely have it's very difficult for me to get out a coherent word anyway. But that definitely doesn't help. So if you've said hello so far, I'm not ignoring you. I just have comments off so I can just keep rolling. There's a lot of you out there, you're hoping that Alabama has fallen apart. You're hoping that it's fallen apart. I'm not fooled. I don't believe that they're to the caliber that we've seen of past Alabama teams. Okay, I agree with you there. But fell apart. Milroe's only getting better week after week. Week after week. Let's just say they don't make the college football playoff. Do you want to go play Alabama? Maybe if you're a drunk Georgia fan, you say yeah. But I think Kirby Smart, even in the back of his head, would go, I better be careful here. We can win, definitely. But as long as that old man's standing on the sideline, As long as Nick Saban's still sucking wind and he's over there, you got a problem. Better show some respect. Alabama, they're always a problem. And once again, here they are. You know, the Tide, they're 9-1, by the way, 7-0 in conference. 7-0 in conference. Guess where they're going again? Conference championship. You know, their next game's up. Let me look at that. Alabama's next games, Chattanooga, Auburn, and the SEC championship has already been determined. They're playing Georgia on December the 2nd. So Chattanooga this week, at Auburn. And they'll have to show respect to Auburn because Hugh Freeze can coach football. This is his first year. I know things hasn't turned out wonderfully grand for Auburn. But the truth is, Hugh Freeze can coach football too. You give him a few years, and if he can stay out of trouble, that's going to be a tough team to play. But those last two regular season games are definitely winnable, more than winnable for Alabama. And Georgia looked good last night. That was the most impressive win that Georgia has had all season, in my opinion. Georgia has not beat a team until last night that made me go, wow. South Carolina gave Georgia a very good game. The best game I've seen Georgia play that makes me go, okay, they're contending, was that game last night against Ole Miss. So Georgia looking good against Ole Miss last night. It was in Sanford Stadium. I mean, they go out there. They just manhandled them. At first, it looked like Ole Miss was going to bring something to the table. Georgia beats them 52-17. One thing that I noticed about a lot of these offensive-minded coaches like Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin's a brilliant offensive mind. Steve Sarkisian's a brilliant offensive mind. Lincoln Riley is a brilliant offensive mind. But they miss the memo that you have to have defense wins championships. And for me, if I was an offensive-minded guy, I'd be like, okay, I've got the offense covered. I need to make sure the defense is amazing. Because it's easy to think, oh, I can come up with something. We'll just keep scoring. We'll just keep scoring. I'm telling you, folks, defense, it does win championships. So I'm going to continue going through here. Michigan and Penn State. I talked about Harbaugh. Harbaugh was, suspended, that whole debacle. I'm telling you, he's pissed off someone very powerful, because as soon as that whole recruiting violation thing was over, guess what came up? This. Go check the timeline. I'm not saying he's not guilty. I'm not saying that he is. I'm just saying he's ticked off someone. Michigan goes in. I don't think they threw a single pass in the second half, and they beat Penn State in Happy Valley 24-15. Penn State knew who was getting the football, and they still couldn't stop them. Put a gun to their head. Still couldn't stop them. Penn State, top 15 team, maybe. Top 10, absolutely not. I'm sick and tired of hearing about a top 10 Penn State team. I can take like lower top 10, maybe 9 or 10. But I'm tired of hearing about them being a contender. They're not a contender, and they couldn't even do it when Saquon Barkley was there. So, yeah. As I said, Clemson beat Georgia Tech. Have North Carolina coming up next week. Let me see. South Carolina had their biggest win of the season, beating Vanderbilt. And I know you go, why would you even bring that up? You despise the Gamecocks. And of course I do. But them getting that win, even though it's in conference and it's Vanderbilt, I'm telling you, things have been unraveling down there. And so it's good for them to get that win. But it's, yeah, that was weird. 47-6. There was other teams in the SEC who didn't beat them that bad. So maybe they were taking out some frustration with them. Texas Tech beat Kansas yesterday, a Kansas team that was ranked number 16 in the country, had done some good things, beat them by 3 points. Kansas, their coach, I know he's older. What's his name? Leopold? I think that's his last name. The guy's talented. He really is. He's a talented coach. And you have to have a certain mental toughness to coach at a place like that because you go in severely behind the eight ball. You know, it's not like going into Auburn where it's like, yeah, I've got to contend with Alabama and Georgia and these guys, but it's Auburn, you know. People want to come play football at Auburn. Who wants to go to Kansas? No offense to Kansas and natives of Kansas and people who loves their Jayhawks. I'm just asking you, who is just beating their brains in to go play at Kansas when you could go play in Athens, Georgia? You could play in Clemson. You could play at Ohio State. You could play at Alabama. You could play you could go play, if it fits your vibe, at Oregon or maybe Utah. Or let's go to Kansas. Not really. So they dropped that one. That was kind of tough. Tulane won again yesterday, but Tulane's playing a bunch of close games. They won 24-22 over Tulsa. And this is like a second or third week in a row. They're playing close with one of these little teams they should beat handily. And they're going to lose. They're going to lose. But Tulane's a great story. Those uniforms are great too. Liberty, the Fighting Jamie Chadwells. Guy leaves Coastal Carolina, goes up there. He was making like $1 million. This is right off the top of my head, like $1 million a year at Coastal. Did all those great things there. Did Coastal pay him? No. Liberty came along and said, we'll pay you $4 million a year if you'll come up here and replace Hugh Freeze. He was like, deal. They're undefeated right now. They look good too. 38-10 over Old Dominion. You say Old Dominion. Old Dominion has been a problem. It's funny who Old Dominion is a problem to. Old Dominion's not a problem to every team. It's really interesting. I'm getting in here in the comment section. If you're here still watching right now, thank you for watching the show, watching Clemson Football Live. I hope you hit the subscribe button. It's free. It's free, and it's a great way to support, especially a small channel like mine. So if you want to support on a monthly basis, there's a subscribe button down here. So please, or not a subscribe button, there's a join button. It's really cheap. So got some people in here. Grafnar, thumbs up. He's a member of the Clemson Football Live channel. Rec Talk, I don't know if you're still in here, my friend, but I've seen some of your videos. You do a great job. I almost contacted you to have you on to talk about the Georgia Tech Clemson game, but it was just too short a notice. So I'm sorry about that. Y'all check out his videos. Grafnar again, Rec Talk, y'all have the best fight song. You can deal with it. Let's see. Going on down, Tyler Brown in here. Iowa completely snubbed in 25 despite being ranked 22nd. The Nature Boys up, folks. Got John Seton, a member. Thank you, my friend, for being a member and supporting the channel. Bama beats UGA and chaos happens. That would be very, very interesting. Can you imagine the ESPNers trying to figure out that one? This season that could have been. It's like Wile E. Coyote bought our footballs from Acme. Yep, it is. Tyler Brown, I'm a Big Ten fan, just here for the great host. Hey, that's the comment of the evening or day. It's in the middle of the day. Why did I say evening? Thank you, Tyler Brown. Thank you so much. So let's continue with the scores. I'm going to speed up a little bit. Arizona beat Colorado 34-31. Arizona, what a good job their coach has been doing. What's his name? Jed something? I have a buddy of mine. He graduated Arizona. He lives in Tucson. You know, basketball is everything to them. Arizona football has been an embarrassment for years. I was like, dude, you got to go to a game. And he was just like, look, I've heard they're doing better, but I've written off the whole Arizona football thing because they've always been an embarrassment, you know, except for back in the 90s and little spots here and there. And I sent him a link to buy tickets to a game. And I was like, look, here you can find an affordable game here. You know, affordable tickets here. And he thanked me for it. I don't know if he went this past or if he's going this next weekend. But Arizona beat Colorado. I'm going to tell you this, folks. I have no problems with coaches being happy and getting people hyped up and all that much of stuff. But I knew this whole Deion Sanders hype that we saw, I knew it was going to come to this because hype and emotion can only get you so far. Just ask the University of Miami. We got the turnover chain. Then they started getting beat like redheaded stepchildren. Okay. So my point in all of this is I saw this coming. I tried to warn everybody. I was called names. I was called stuff that I even had to delete off of my comment section. And I'm going to say this. And if you don't know me personally, you're going to think, what a jerk. But I'm just going to say it. I was right. You were wrong. Told you. My computer is about to die. I thought I had it plugged up, but I don't have it plugged up. So I'm going to make this fast. James Madison wins another game. Their teeny tiny school winning another game. Kansas State wins big 59-25 over Baylor. We have Missouri beating Tennessee 36-7. Told you Joe Milton was not going to live up to it, y'all. Told you. I wasn't trying to be mean. I was just telling the truth. I was just telling the truth. I just muted the show and asked my son to bring me the charger because this could die at any moment. Having my son go downstairs and try to get my charger up here ASAP. Let's keep going. If it dies, it dies, folks. Washington beat Utah. There's a rumor Cam Rising, who hasn't played all year, might transfer. That's interesting. Florida State beat Miami 27-20. It was an interesting game. And what a beatdown. Yes, that's it, young man. Hand it right here. My son just went, he just got my charger. So, folks, I'm going to try to plug this up before it dies. Watch me plug it in and just immediately dies. That'll be great. You just saved Daddy's day. He's my 7-year-old son. He has a birthday in a couple of weeks. I say a couple of weeks. It's about a month now, but thank you. Thank you for doing that. Now Daddy can talk about football more. He's laughing. All right. So UCF, I told y'all this a couple of weeks ago when they were playing Oklahoma. I said, Gus Malzahn, if you put him in a big game, you better watch out. The guy can coach his brains out. You put him at a game he's supposed to win or is beneath him, they'll lose it. Why? He really coaches up for the big games, and then he really coaches down for the I'm supposed to win that game, right? Well, yesterday, he really coached up for Oklahoma State, beat them 45-3 after they just beat, Oklahoma. John Setton says, make sure your son doesn't enter the transfer portal. He's a keeper. Yes, he is. He is a keeper. In fact, he's trying to figure out how much money he's worth in the NIL right now. He says he's got a phone call from Boulder, Colorado. Don't answer it. Don't answer it. No matter how many times they say, I'm a coming. You better reply, I'm a hanging up. I don't know. Let's keep going. Locally, if you're in the state of South Carolina, Coastal Carolina is like on a 5-game win streak, maybe 6-game win streak. Start off really tough beginning of the season. Had to start off in, UCLA, new coach. It didn't turn out that well. I want to say they lost to Georgia State. I think they've lost 3 games, but they came out and won yesterday against Texas State. I think 4 or 5-game win streak, something like that. So that's interesting. Auburn beat the socks off of Arkansas. You have to wonder if they're going to fire Sam Pittman. If they fire Sam Pittman, Clemson needs to go after Sam Pittman now to coach their offensive line. Moving a little quicker. I keep saying that, but I move slower. Oregon State beat Stanford 62-17. Oklahoma beat the socks off of West Virginia 59-20. Man, West Virginia just can't pull it together, man. Our old coach Brent Venables doing a great job out there. He's still got a lot of work ahead of him, but a great change from last year. LSU beat Florida 52-35. Daniels had an outrageous game. I think he passed this right off the top of my head. He passed for like 300 and rushed for 200. He's a very talented player. Getting on to Texas A&M. Texas A&M won yesterday against Mississippi State 51-10, but they ended up firing Fisher after it. It's like you won by 41 points. You mean to tell me that just after that win, that's when you felt like firing him? I don't know. Ohio State beat the socks off of Michigan State 38-3. Texas has had a lot of close games. They had another one 29-26 over TCU. The Artist, I like to call Artist, formerly known as TCU. If this was a couple of weeks, well, not a couple of weeks ago, this was about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and it was Colorado beating TCU, people would be screaming about how Colorado beat the team that was in the national championship. I love how they don't tell the full story, that the offensive coordinator's gone, starting quarterback was gone, Quentin Johnson, the great wide receiver, he's gone. I think even the water girl, she is gone. But, just to whip up that hype around the Colorado Buffaloes, what did they do? Did you see what they did? By the way, TCU 4-6, 2-5 in the Big 12. Texas barely beats them. Barely beats them. Thank you very much. North Carolina barely beat Duke. It was in double overtime, 47-45. The Tar Heels come to town this week, and they play against Clemson. It'll be interesting. Oregon beats Southern Cal. They beat Southern Cal 36-27. Once again, we get to see a transfer portal team get smacked around. I'm actually kind of shocked that USC is not doing as well. I thought they would do a little better than what they've done so far this season. And then Air Force, in a second week in a row, they lose a game after starting off, got into the top 25, and they have lost 2 weeks in a row. They lost at Hawaii. That's really weird, 27-13. So it's kind of nuts. Let's talk about the games coming up this week. I won't go through all of them. I'm just going to go through Clemson, especially. Clemson playing North Carolina. I did a video last week called "Are these the most important games left in the current Dabo Swinney era?" And I said yes, because there's a lot going on after that Notre Dame game and that whole week. So they beat Georgia Tech. They beat them commandingly. I liked what I saw out of them. Now you go in to play North Carolina. I'm going to do my prediction. We know about Drake May. North Carolina started off really hot, and they're still winning, have a better record than Clemson. The problem here is the team as a whole. They're still playing close with teams they shouldn't be playing close with. They've lost games that, in my opinion, they shouldn't have lost. So Virginia, you shouldn't even realm of possibility lose that game, and they did. So this is a really tricky game to pick. I got my words flipped around. But real quick, another score right off the top of my head, Furman beat VMI. Furman has only lost 1 game all season. They're looking really good. They're here in the upstate of South Carolina, and so congrats to them on their big win. And Furman's got it going on. Their basketball team is good. Their football team is good. So if you're Paladin, you're probably having a blast right now. Well, folks, I hope you have a good one. I will have more videos coming out this week. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. It is free. I hope you'll hit the join button. It is extremely affordable. And I will catch you later this week. Hope you have a good day. As always, go Tigers.